Every morning, you perform an ancient ritual without noticing. Before facing the world, you cover the body you were born with. You may call it habit, fashion, comfort, or necessity. But clothing began long before closets, mirrors, brands, or written rules. At some point, an animal that had survived naked for millions of years decided its natural body was no longer enough. The obvious explanation is cold. Yet the first chapters of clothing appear while humans were still living largely in warm African environments. Protection also seems reasonable. Hides could block thorns, insects, sharp stone, and burning sunlight. But if protection alone caused clothing, hands, feet, and exposed limbs should have been covered first. Instead, many early traditions focused on the torso, waist, and groin, areas carrying social meaning as much as physical vulnerability. That suggests clothing did more than defend the skin. It changed what the body communicated. The archaeological record is frustratingly incomplete. Leather decays, fibers disappear, and the first garments almost certainly vanished without leaving a trace. Needles and hide-working tools appear tens of thousands of years ago, but they mark developed clothing traditions, not necessarily the first experiment. The strangest evidence comes not from fabric, but from parasites that evolved to live inside it. Head lice live among hair. Body lice survive mainly in clothing, hiding in seams and feeding when garments touch skin. By comparing their genetics, researchers estimated that body lice separated from head lice roughly 170,000 years ago. That date does not prove the first garment appeared then. It shows clothing had become common enough to create an entirely new habitat. A parasite adapted to our clothing because clothing had become a stable part of human life. But even this remarkable clue answers when more clearly than why. The deeper answer may lie in a transformation that occurred inside the human mind before it appeared on the human body. Clothing requires imagination. A hide must be seen not only as dead animal skin, but as a future object with a purpose. Someone had to picture the finished garment before cutting, scraping, drying, piercing, tying, and shaping the material. That sequence demanded memory, planning, delayed reward, and the ability to act for a version of yourself that did not yet exist. In that sense, clothing was not merely a tool. It was evidence that humans had learned to live mentally inside the future. But planning alone still cannot explain why clothing became nearly universal, even in climates where complete coverage was unnecessary. Across tropical forests, islands, deserts, and grasslands, humans decorated, wrapped, painted, pierced, and transformed their bodies. Sometimes the covering was minimal, yet something was almost always added. Fiber, shell, pigment, feather, tooth, bead, or scar. The naked body had become more than anatomy. It had become a surface other minds could interpret. That shift depends on one of humanity's most powerful abilities: imagining yourself from another person's point of view. Psychologists call this theory of mind, the capacity to understand that other people possess thoughts, judgments, intentions, and expectations. Once humans became intensely aware of being observed, the body could no longer feel entirely private or neutral. A person could imagine how others evaluated strength, maturity, sexuality, status, danger, beauty, illness, or belonging. From that moment, appearance became a problem humans could manage. A hide could conceal, a necklace could attract, color could warn, pattern could identify, a headdress could command attention. Clothing gave humans the ability to edit the social meaning of their own bodies. This is where modesty and shame enter the story, not necessarily as moral rules, but as awareness of exposure. Shame begins when you can see yourself through imagined eyes and fear that the image does not match the group's expectations. Clothing offered control over that vulnerability. It allowed people to decide what others saw, what remained hidden, and what message appeared first. As human groups became larger, this ability grew increasingly valuable. In a small family, everyone already knows who you are. In a larger community, strangers need faster ways to classify one another. Before conversation begins, appearance can announce age, role, rank, alliance, occupation, marital status, ritual authority, or hostility. Clothing became a social technology, a language worn on the surface of the body. A particular bead might identify a group. A rare feather might display status. A specific pattern might separate adults from children. The garment did not simply cover the person. It placed the person inside a shared system of meaning. This may explain why clothing traditions became elaborate long before they became technically necessary for survival in extreme cold. Warmth made garments essential in northern climates, but symbolism made them human everywhere. Once clothing could communicate identity, removing it was no longer a return to neutrality. It could signal vulnerability, punishment, intimacy, poverty, or rebellion. The body had entered culture, and culture rarely releases anything it learns to control. Over generations, practical protection, thermal insulation, decoration, modesty, and status became woven together until no single origin remained visible. That is why searching for one simple cause can be misleading. Clothing probably began through several pressures, but one transformed its meaning. The decisive change was not the discovery that animal skin could block wind. It was the discovery that appearance could shape social reality. Humans realized they could construct an identity before speaking a word. That ancient calculation still happens every morning when you choose what to wear. You are balancing comfort, weather, status, taste, expectation, memory, and the imagined judgments of people you have not yet met. The discomfort of being overdressed or underdressed is not really about fabric. It is the fear of sending the wrong social signal. A uniform creates authority. A suit suggests seriousness. Sportswear signals ease. Mourning clothes transform grief into something publicly recognizable. Fashion changes constantly because the human need beneath it never disappears, to control how the self enters another person's mind. Clothing became one of our earliest external identities, a second skin designed not by biology, but by imagination. It allowed a fragile primate to survive colder lands, but it also allowed a self-conscious animal to survive increasingly complicated societies. We did not simply cover the body because the world was dangerous. We covered it because other humans had become psychologically powerful. Their attention could grant belonging, attraction, authority, trust, ridicule, rejection, or shame. Clothing became the boundary between the body we possessed and the person we wanted the group to perceive. Tomorrow, when you get dressed, you will repeat that ancient invention, choosing not only what covers you, but who appears when you are seen.